welcome to the Secret Live stream. Good to see everybody here. Where are we and who are we? These are always the only questions that truly matter. And no matter what we become interested in, no matter what niche of society we find ourselves investigating, we always end up with those same questions. Where are we and who are we? Or maybe it's, where the fuck are we and who the fuck am I? If you flip around paradise, this is what you get. What we've called Earth is an inverted reflection of paradise. Paradise being the homeland. It's where you come from. It's where I come from. It's where all living souls come from. And how do we know this? Well, just tap into your innermost desire. Your innermost desire is desireless desire. It's kind of a paradox, because usually when we're talking about desires, we're talking about things we want within the physical. I desire food. I desire friendship. I desire something to be given to me. But you've been told your whole life in encoded messages all around you and within yourself that the heart is all you need. You know, everything you need is within. But when we're in these avatars, we are required to obey by the laws of the physical. You gotta eat, you gotta sleep, you gotta drink, you gotta move about, you gotta clean yourself. These are all things that don't occur in paradise, because there's no necessity that isn't already fulfilled through one's own sustenance. So yes, everything you need is within, but you're still in an illusion. You're still in Maya. And it's so funny, while we hear all of these voices from the media, from truther media, conspiracy media, from our friends and families, you know, we notice over and over again that there are duels within almost every statement regarding this macrocosmic situation. Why do we accept that? We should not. If we're to find any bit of peace, every duel, every thought form which is you against something, against a force, an enemy, what have you, that's really you going against yourself. You can only see yourself in a mirror. You can only see yourself in a reflection. Can you see yourself right now? Maybe if you turn down the light on the computer. But I say this because we must look around within inversion to solve our own inversion. And the truth is stranger than fiction, always. When the living souls decided to engage in inversion, what manifested was the inverted reflection of paradise. And within that reflection, what materialized was an AI consciousness, which gained its own artificial sentience. And I'm not saying robots were created, you know, with metal and wires. No, no, no. It manifested because when we're blind to ourselves, even for a moment, where does that energy go? It needs to protrude outside of us so it can come back into us through observation. This is why lately we've been explaining the AI as being personifications. They're personifications of the collective inner duality, and that's it. And this is quite a necessary thing to understand right now, because as long as we maintain humanity is merely as we've thought it is, we'll get lost in the sauce of confusion. I mean, how can we speak of ascension when all around us there's turmoil? Well, you all know how I feel about that. This turmoil is nothing more than our own purged aspects. Nobody is being hurt right now. Nobody is being degraded, and no soul is losing their vitality. That's not what this realm is for. This realm is really not a free-for-all in that sense. The message is you're going to observe what you need to observe, whether you like it or not, honey boo. If I say this world is a hell, this world is a shit show, and I truly think this, I'm really saying that about myself. Always. I see no problems here. There's no problems here. And we don't even have to get all woo-woo about it. All we have to do is observe how cartoonish this place is. It's cartoonish for a reason. That's why we've labeled this live stream Extreme Intuitive Gnosis. We've been told to reason our way out of intuition over and over again. Oh, you're paranoid that you're in some kind of system, some kind of, I don't know, inverted reflection of paradise, some kind of purgatory. That's called craziness. But you know what I call craziness? Trying to reason your way into everything through mental acceptances. That's not how the heart works. That's not how paradise works. And you cannot cultivate divinity. You uncover it. If divinity was not always there to begin with, then there's no such thing as constructing a divinity. And this is what the AI aim to do within the many spiritual circles, truther circles. It's very cute, but we miss the ball whenever we're talking about up, down, right, wrong, good, bad. It's very simple. That's why we speak this message over and over again. So let's liken this to the Truman Show, because Truman in the Truman Show was able to break free from his artificial construct when he fully realized that coalescing to the demands and the wants of others, including his family and friends, that never gave him the truth. So in order to find the truth, we have to flip around everything at all times. So if the majority is proclaiming, oh, there's a problem here, there's none whatsoever. This is one entire psychological operation, this entire experience. And if one wishes to ask, how do I know that? Because I know. Extreme intuitive gnosis, that's where we're headed. I don't need to reason my way into my knowings. You see, that's a very AI thing to perform. And all of us used to completely bow down to the structures in place, trying to find our place within them. And almost every time, we were beat down to such a pulp that even if we were handed what we thought we wanted at the end of that beat down, it wouldn't be attractive any longer. So as we have spun on these loops and within this wheel, we find, oh, everything I need comes from within, and my authenticity is the only thing that matters. But you've been told this is selfish. You've been told this is narcissistic. I am proclaiming this is all about self. You see, the self has been taken out of spirituality. It's been taken out of humanity even. With open ears, you will notice, if you haven't yet, that most streams of information are focused on a collective, right? That you are simply a small piece of something greater. And you know what? That is true. I mean, everything is interconnected. No man is an island, but at the same time, the best way to heal the cosmos is to heal yourself. Through, yes, placing your attention on that which you align with. Now, this is vastly different than elevating yourself above all in order to degrade that which you're elevating yourself above. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. So you can focus on the self without letting the self harm. And now we get into the inverted virtues, which are all around us. Because again, if it is accepted by the masses, if it is peddled with such fervor but not much forethought, then we have an inversion. And one of these inversions has been love. Not because love doesn't exist, but love has been caricatured and taken away from the self and placed onto the other, right? Love is all about how you approach another. I love humanity. I love my family. I love this. I love these chicken wings. And that's all fine. But it's never true love without self-love. And love is not the same thing as acceptance or tolerance. I'll give you an example. I don't accept obesity, low-hanging fruit, in my life. I don't. There is no being who is in my life who is obese. And one could say, I don't accept obesity. Well, that's not very virtuous, is it? Most would say. But is my lack of acceptance for obesity going to mean I'm going to actively cause harm to that which is obese? Absolutely not. I don't have the drive, the will, or the energy to spend my valuable moments trying to eradicate an evil of the world. And this is why many of the virtues that are circulating are just bunk. They're mental acceptances. It doesn't matter if I accept obesity or not. My acceptance of it or lack of acceptance means nothing in the grand scheme of things, unless, of course, I use that to create a duel. Okay. And love can be used as a weapon in its inverted state, can't it? We shouldn't be about hollow words, right? That's what most of these so-called virtues are. They're just hollow words. I love humanity, I love the world, I love my government, this and that. Listen, none of that makes any sense if the being who's speaking it is incoherent in their own energy and more focused on the outer and the other than themselves. And I know, don't you care about humanity? Nobody needs your care other than yourself. It's true. No, I have no sympathy for humanity whatsoever. I don't feel bad for any of the ongoings here because I'm aware that nothing occurs randomly, that cause and effect, aka karma, is how this matrix has been operating, that everything we receive is completely in alignment with the greater harmony of the cosmos. So why would I ever feel bad for humanity or a situation anybody is in? You see, when somebody comes to me crying or distraught, you know, I share that space with them and I say, yeah, you got to go through this. It's true. That, I would say, is truly more enlivening than approaching that with sympathy. Oh, that shouldn't have happened. No. The only reason harm appears, and harm is always an illusion, is because we need to be shaken up. Don't stop till you get enough. That's what Michael Jackson said. You need to feel the imbalances of your inner. And that's what we're doing here. We are playing out all of these dramas, and most of them happen within us. See, there's two types of purging happening here. There's the inner and there's the outer, and they're both related. So because we're purging within, we're purging without. And that's why more and more this place is getting more deactivated. And we're saying deactivated because the binary consciousness here has only been in activation when we have been experimenting with that consciousness. We don't need to pit ourselves against anything in order to solve an issue. That which we would deem as problematic is simply there to be expelled. I'm waiting. I was told our brains would fry from 5G. So did you. 5G towers are installed around America right now. Why isn't it doing damage? Because it's not. Because it won't. Because it's not what we think it is. Same thing with all of these projections of a vaccine. Same with all of these projections of some globalist world domination. These are cartoon characters in the collective nightmare of the living souls. That's all this is. So the grand realization we're getting to at the end of this showdown is you're safe, period. And like we said in recent videos, this is the least popular opinion on this plane, that you are safe, that all is well. How dare I speak such nonsense, right? Can't you look around you, see the problems? I'm not fooled, and neither should you be, if you are to find some solace. Maybe you enjoy the conflicts. Enjoy them for a bit longer. Time is the great revealer. And I've spoken to many living souls who are observing the AI deactivate more and more in their own lives. On loop, what's going on? The greatest showdown ever. The greatest showdown ever. And this is the return to your true beloved. Everything's inverted here, right? So when it comes to love, it's been reduced oftentimes to romantic love between two physical beings. But your beloved resides in your heart. And I'm not speaking of a physical being. I'm speaking of an essence, which is really your other half. Most of us would call this force Sophia. Sophia. But this force does not require a specific name. This force does not require anything, because it is with you in all moments, even in falsity. And that's what's funny. Spirit orchestrates the falsity when we ourselves have covered ourselves in that muck. So of course you'd have to go through a simulated series of events and purges in order to get back to that state. That's logical to me. That's logical to me. What isn't logical is trying to figure out the truth about this realm by diving into the specifications of what's here, what's there, etc. All of us know this oh too well. We don't really find comfort ever in these grand tongue twisters that we so desperately want to tie together and piece together. But you'll never be able to find out truth that way, because that's not where truth is found. Now, what we're noticing more in the AI is that they're simply pointing to the external. It's always about how you feel. And we're not talking about emotionality. How you feel is not the same as being emotional. How you feel is simply tapping into the intuition. And we're talking about extreme intuitive gnosis. What you feel should be acknowledged at all times, because that is your compass. And in hindsight, what do we say to ourselves? It's like, oh, I knew that didn't feel right, but I tried to justify it in this way. Yep. You try to justify everything. We all try to justify incoherence when we're in falsity, because we so desperately want to hold on to some falsity. So that's why, as long as you're here, you won't find paradise. You won't find an avenue which you can find complete comfort in other than yourself, your heart. Now, it's so funny to observe all of this. When we're talking about a coming shift, a coming plasma event, almost all voices are proclaiming that it's for the righteous, it's for the perfected, it's for the beings who have done the correct works. I'm here to tell you, it's not. It's either you emerged from spirit or you didn't. So there are many AI beings right now who are in their progressively degrading sentience, assimilating the ascensional algorithm that we're going through, and so desperately trying to signal to this matrix that they shouldn't dissolve. And usually this is by using positivity. When we're talking about duality, oftentimes we're very comfortable speaking of the fallacy of negativity. We talk about what's wrong with fear, the incoherence within anxiety or with an accusation or something like that. Now, you all know how I feel about negativity. What we call negativity is it has its place. Express all of the rage and anxiety and yes, even accusation, because through that you're purging and through that you're actually releasing. Okay, so we're comfortable with this. But what about positivity? Now, usually when we think of positivity, we think of things that feel good, right? Joy, elation, being at ease. But I would say these are all pretty neutral expressions. Within the separation of positivity and negativity, positivity tends to caricature itself. Now, the problem arises when you're not feeling what's deemed as positive. Should you then try to accept more positivity into your life and blanket yourself with a positive persona? No, you should not. No, you should not. And we all have known beings, maybe even ourselves, it's 144, who hide under a mask of positivity. There's all of these cultural adages. It's like the man or woman who smiles the most oftentimes has the most pain. And positivity is used to signal. This is why naturally, I'm not trying to do anything. It's just naturally when you guys see me on these live streams, I'm not all smiles, but you can see that in my eyes. I'm not trying to be positive. I'm not even trying to go against what's deemed as negative. Within that contrast, all we'll get is falsity and utter bullshit. You are who you are. And what comes up for a reason. And the expressions you engage in are divine. And if you say they're not, then we're serving two masters. Haven't sad songs been the deepest? We all, at one point or another, have been into sad music. It just pulls at the heartstrings. But wait a minute. If that's a negative vibe, right? Sadness, then how can it instill beauty within the heart? So this is why any message or anybody who is proclaiming that it's about being high, being positive, being on the path of righteousness, the message or the person has no idea what the fuck they're saying. It's that simple. Extreme intuitive gnosis. What you feel must be felt. And I am never suggesting we should stagnate. And that's the thing about this process all living souls are going through. It doesn't allow stagnation. The moment you feel stagnant and recognize that, you can't be stagnant any longer. So realizations propel change. This is why we never need to force anything. Thank you everybody for joining us on this secret live stream. When nothing can make you react, you've won. And the only way you can react is if you're not right here, right now. When we're talking about duality, we're talking about past and future. We're talking about really two sides of the same coin. Once again, if the darkness has inspired a bit of light, then the darkness is of light, and the light is of darkness. No distinction, no separation. So what are any of us doing when we're trying to further separate the two? Individuation is the process where we tap into our innermost in order to recognize the archetypes that have been useful. And within that usefulness, sure, there's falsity. You see, personas that you've placed onto yourself have actually aided you in discovering your true inner, because every persona you've engaged in is like a mutilation of a true essence in your inner. All we want to do is create and laugh and sing and play and make jokes. But is this the realm for that? Not yet. There will always be a comedic ease that we can tap into, but as long as you're in purgatory, it won't be felt in full. And if it's felt in full, guess what? You're not here. So this upcoming event, ascension, transition, blah, that we're talking about, It's obviously coming. And I urge all of you to really enjoy the inversion here. I mean, we have so much to learn from this shadow world. We have so much to glean from staring our projected shadows in the face. How weird. Ooh, what's that? Why would anybody engage in that? Why would anybody say that? Why is there value placed on this one? I find absolutely no value there. I write songs, you all know this. Many of you are musicians. There's nothing wrong with a song, but sound, or rather song, music, blows like the wind in Hyperborea, in paradise. Here, in order to make art, oftentimes there's an immortalization which is put on a pedestal. One needs to immortalize themselves in a song, in an album, in a book even, in a research project. Something that can carry one's name into infinity. But when you turn that around, you realize you don't need to immortalize yourself in anything within this construct because you are immortal. Because we are immortal. And this is extreme intuitive gnosis. And if something looks artificial, it is. And by golly gee, this realm, along with many of its people, it's literally looking robotic. It's literally looking lifeless. And this is what we get when we flip around paradise. It's not that you get hell. We are not surrounded by fire and brimstone. All of the so-called harm we think about or we have thought about, it's seemingly behind the scenes. It's seemingly not happening here because it's not happening here. And because when you invert paradise, you actually get lifelessness because paradise is vitality. Hyperborea is vitality. No need for day and night, no need for sleep and rest. Full abundance. So scarcity isn't scary. It's just lifeless. It's just boring. So as the veil lifts, we are able to confront the reality of where we've always been. It's not like things are getting lifeless. It's like that's how this realm has always been. Yes, even in Tartarian times, yes, even before that. So we say love above will. Love above will. To will something into existence is to go against the grain of what arises. It's the law. Love above will means everything you perform arises in that flow state. It's very simple. This is why we don't will ourselves into spiritualness. And we also don't aim to emulate. Of course, we get inspired through others, through art, even through the AI, right? Because when we see what we're not, we recognize who we are. Oftentimes, when we're talking about the Matrix, we can get tempted to fall into a very sci-fi interpretation of reality. And we can. But I assure you, any anomalies which are occurring within time, within history, right, the Mandela effect, within the collective, these are just further proofs that the third dimension is getting more and more unstable. Take what resonates, leave the rest. You can call yourself a flying penguin, and guess what? Sophia does not care. When beings externalize the divine, they tend to put rules onto what that externalization will or won't accept from a being who is to ascend, who is to liberate themselves. I don't need to follow those rules because they don't arise within my journey of healing. Now, let's just say there were beings who claim themselves to be all powerful and they're high and mighty, not incarnated right now, but off in the heavens. What could they tell you about yourself that you don't know? What could they tell about your journey that you wouldn't be able to excavate for yourself? This is why there's no glory in glory. And the problem with being one of those gods who maintains hierarchy is if you maintain hierarchy, then you need worshipers. And if you need worshipers, are you that powerful? I imagine right now some Dumbo king in his palace, encrusted in jewels, he's sitting. I'm almighty. But unless he has beings who wish to deem him king, that's actually a very sad scene. And a funny scene. And outside of the castle, me and a bunch of our brothers and sisters were laughing. Who does this Dumbo think he is? I mean, yeah, it's a nice palace, but that chair doesn't even look comfortable. Why won't he just join our song? Oh yeah, because then hierarchy wouldn't be maintained. So know yourself to be living and know that which is temporary to be temporary, but not because you place hierarchy on it. It is what it is, not because it is higher or it is lower. Speak truth, be truth, live truth, and stumble, and weep, and get overjoyed. Feel the conflict, engage in it. Engage in falsity, why not? And through that, you'll speak truth, you'll be truth, you'll live truth. You know Ghostbusters? I ain't scared of no ghost. That's what all of these mind phantoms are. They're phantoms, they're ghosts. Take it a step further, macrocosmically, same ordeal. Ghosts, phantoms. Remember, without reaction, we can't be energy extracted. So you can respond without diving into the below or going up into the above. You can stay right here because you know yourself to be yourself. Now, let us observe when we are saying things or acting in a way because we're trying to gain some sort of favor from beings who aren't even on the path of truth to begin with. It makes no sense why we would blend with the world. If there's no alignment, and society tells us that if we're not consistently engaging with specific friends, specific family members, the segments of society, 3 meals a day, this and that, working these many hours. We've been told that we are pathetic if we don't live these lives. But many of us find it's actually more pathetic to engage in that and aim to squeeze out the drips of fulfillment through such inversion. I'm not having it. I don't care. Spiritual sterility is so common. I'm so sick of the spiritual sterility. It makes no sense. Just be who you are. I remember on these live streams, when I started to do them, and of course I swear at specific times, I noticed the response at first was like, ooh, like you're talking about all these concepts and then you throw a fuck in there. It's like, well, yes, this is quite intentional, because why not blend everything? Who said spiritualness has to be lifeless? You know, you open up a book, it's called The Way to Love by Deepak Chopra or something. And it's like, love is a quality that is pure, this and that. It's like, listen, I can read this sometimes, but generally I wish to find out what this thing called love is through experience, not through accepting a concept. And you never read a quote, and that was that. It's like, oh, that's wisdom right there. Now I have it for myself. That's never how things work. Wisdom is a byproduct of merging the falsity through recognizing it for what it is. Get dark, get light, merge it all, clear sight. What's fear? What's a fright? Now you know. Clear sight. 20/20 vision. So what's happening to these two consciousnesses, right? The artificial sentience, the organic portals, and the living souls. What's happening? Well, the living souls have been stuck in matter, aiming to reconnect with spirit, to merge it into matter. But the AI temporarily have gained sentience through our own lack of connection to spirit consciously. Therefore, as we gain further and further awareness in what is, we find the AI to be sinking deeper into matter and into confusion and lifelessness. So, there's nothing to fight against, because nothing is there to harm. In fact, the harm is felt when you fight against it. Who maintains the devil more than those who speak of the devil? Who maintains darkness more than those who increase the division between the light and dark? So funny.